The DCI Network Series amplifiers allow each channel to be independently configured to accept any of the analog or digital inputs supplied to the amp. This video will cover how to route analog audio to each channel, while a separate video will cover the digital sources. Double-click on the virtual representation of the amplifier to open the amplifier's default device panel. Notice that each channel has an input source routing block. In this case, there is one for each of the 4 channels on this DCI 4x300. If any channels are bridged or wired together, the number of input source routing blocks will decrease. However, the concept of audio routing remains the same. Double-click on the input block to open the input source routing window. The channel priority section is where a majority of the selections will be made. Most of the time, the high priority section is the only section that will be configured. If the audio system requires a backup source, or priority input, the medium and low priority sections will need to be configured. This will be covered in a separate video. By default, each channel is associated with the corresponding analog input. In this case, input 1 is associated with analog input 1. A drop-down list shows all of the possible inputs for the amplifier, both analog and digital. If you want, you can give each input a label to help keep things organized. Next, we'll cover 2 examples of some common configurations outside of the defaults. In this first example, I will configure outputs 1 and 2 for the left channel and outputs 3 and 4 for the right channel. I have an audio source supplying stereo analog audio to inputs 1 and 2. I will perform this configuration while online so the explanation will be easier to understand. Be careful when making changes online. The actions you choose on screen will immediately change the behavior of the amp. Notice how there is signal on inputs 1 and 2, as well as outputs 1 and 2. This is because by default, each channel is associated with the corresponding analog input. Note that if I were to change the channel 1 input routing to analog input 3, the signal will go away because there is no input on analog input 3. Input 1 is already associated with analog input 1, so we're good. Next, open channel 2's input source routing. By default, it is configured for analog input 2, but in this case we'll want to select analog input 1. After that, open up channel 3 source routing. You can open additional source routing windows by clicking on the tabs at the top of any source routing window. Change the routing from analog input 3 to analog input 2. Do the same for channel 4. Now, output channels 1 and 2 are receiving audio from analog input 1, and outputs 3 and 4 are receiving audio from analog input 2. Let's go over one more example with a common left-right sub configuration. Output 1 will be the left channel, output 2 will be the right channel, and outputs 3 and 4 we will bridge for the sub. Because I just reset the amplifier by loading the default preset, channels 1 and 2 are already properly set up. Since this is a stereo configuration, and I do not want to lose any audio content in the single subwoofer, I will choose one of the mono-summing input source options. In the drop-down list, adjacent input channels can be mono-summed to combine the inputs together to the single source for the channel. I will select analog inputs 1 plus 2 to combine the left-right audio for the subwoofer. Don't forget to change the crossover for the channels to match the speaker type. Note that a mono-summed inputs level is around 6 dB higher than a regular input. Thank you for watching this video. For questions, comments, or suggestions regarding this or any other video, please send them to the email address shown below. For technical assistance, please call the technical support department or email them at the options shown below.